Hey guys, welcome in here to the Clent Stewart Show. As always, he is former Kansas State guard Clent Stewart. I am Ryan Gilbert. I just got back from Stillwater. I had to cover a thrilling game from Kansas State as Cats fall just short 84-83 against Oklahoma State. Clint, you've been joking about wanting, you want to go on these road trips with us, but I think it's best you just stay back, my man. You're not missing much.
Hey, maybe if I go, maybe it might change some of the mojo, though,
Could be the
So
good luck charm.
there you go.
Could be the good luck charm, man. You never know. This one was, Kansas State's been in a number of games at Arizona, for example, that K-State just has no business winning, no chance at winning. Here in the Big 12, when your margin for error is as small as it is for Kansas State, when you got a one-possession game late, when you have the lead late in the last couple of minutes, you got to hang on. And K-State unable to do that. We'll get to these late, last couple possessions that were really weighty in this game here in a moment, Clint. But throughout this game, you got to take advantage when you have your chances to go build a double-digit lead, get over that hump and keep Oklahoma State at arm's length. And obviously, Jerome Tang's squad unable to do so.
Yeah, we were able to take the lead in the second half, and we made some shots. I mean, this is a game where we shot the ball, kind of how we did early on in the season, and really shot it well enough to win the basketball game. When you talk about we shot 50% from two, 44 from three, we made 15 threes. That's a game where you say, hey, we probably won that basketball game, and it's unfortunate we just couldn't make enough plays down the stretch, and obviously defensively, we gave up some shots. And hats off to Oklahoma State. I mean, those guys, they came to play. They were ready. Coach Lutz had them ready to play. And obviously they protected home court, which is what they knew they had to do. I thought this was a kind of a must-win game for both teams. I mean, it's a game that Oklahoma State really needed, just kind of help propel them into their next few games. And then obviously for us not having a win in the Big 12, and the only team not winning in the Big 12 so far, is a game that we just had to have. I mean, even though it's a road game, it's one of the, middle Big 12 teams, middle to lower Big 12 teams. And so, it's one that you just have to go find a way to win. And, I thought our guys played well enough to win. Unfortunately, from an offensive standpoint, especially, we just couldn't get it done in the end.
Yeah, offense was fine both ways. Oklahoma State and Kansas State were both, I guess, putting on a clinic, but defensively it was a much different story. And, I tweeted out during the game, like first 1 to 100 is going to win. It didn't come to that many points being scored, but boy, if there was just a pulse on either side defensively, you're looking at I don't want to say a blowout win, but this one's not going to be close if either side steps up defensively.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the thing about this game is, for us, I mean, if we don't make 15 threes, we probably lose by 10 or 15, right? I mean, so, we shot the ball really well. Now we turned it over. We had 16 turnovers, and that led to, points off of turnovers for Oklahoma State. And the reason why they won is because they had 26 points off of turnovers, 26 to our 10. They shot a lot more free throws, right? So we fouled way too much. I kind of tweeted about that during the game. Like, first we just got to guard, and then we got to guard without fouling, right? We got to figure out a way to do that. But they shot 24 free throws, so they made 20 of them, 20 for 24. We went 2 for 5, right? And so now a lot of that is, we shot 10 more threes than them, so we shot a lot more outside shots. But, we got to figure out a way. Someone like PJ Haggerty, who's been getting to the free throw line, 7-8 times a game, and, these 7-8 free throw attempts a game, he gets 4 and goes 1 for 4. I mean, we got to figure out a way to create fouls, to get to the free throw line. And unfortunately, we could not do that last night. And so other than that, look at the rebounding. It was about even, which is good. You say, okay, well, the bench points, well, they brought really one of their best player off the bench. So, I mean, we brought PJ off the bench. Of course, our bench points would look a lot differently as well, right? And so that wasn't really too concerning. Fast break points were about even, so across the board, you say, hey, if we don't turn the basketball over and we don't put them on the free throw line, we win the basketball game, especially how well we shot the basketball. And unfortunately, we just couldn't get it done.
Clint, you mentioned Twitter. I mentioned Twitter. Some of your questions will pop up here in a minute. Appreciate you guys being interactive here, not only on X, Twitter, but also on GoPowercat. We'll get to some questions for you, Clint, at the end. But, rebounding was an issue early on in the non-conference. And to K-State's credit, that's been cleaned up. But fouling, that continues to linger. And, boy, just think if Kamari McGriff is on the court for the last 5 minutes of that game, how much differently things could have gone. 3-point shootings up and down, and the free throw discrepancy, like you talked about, not only the discrepancy in attempts, but you go 40% if it's 1 of 4, or it was 2 of 5, right? Or, 40 out of 100 in a game, not converting at least half your shots from the charity stripe. It's popcorn. Every game, it seems like there's something different. Defense in Stillwater was bad. Sometimes you can get things corrected, but you put so much attention on maybe focusing and correcting something, other things are going to show themselves.
It's almost like you have a sinking ship, and you just kind of like patch it up with some tape in one area, and then another area goes out, and you patch it up with tape in that area, and then the other side goes out again, and you're just kind of putting tape over instead of permanently fixing it. And and that's what makes it tough, right? Because as you mentioned, we've had free throw issues in the past. I mean, we talked about it on here multiple times. All game we did not make free throws. We make free throws, we win. Now that game we shot a lot of them, and so we were obviously aggressive getting to the rim. But shooting 5 free throws in a game for us is way. It's not enough. Way too less. Not enough for us, and especially with a guy like PJ who can get downhill, and David who can get downhill and then get to the free throw line, Nate Johnson who can do that. And so, we can't just, rely on the outside shot, even though, yes, it was falling. We made 15 of 34. We have to have, especially some of our stronger guards and bigs get to the free throw line. I mean, it just changes the dynamic of the game. It slows down the other team. It puts some of their players maybe in foul trouble, which now they have to sub and have other players playing in the game at different times that they weren't anticipating. And so, we just have to be aggressive in that area and get there. And then we got to step up and make them. It does no good if we get there, but not step up and make the shot. So, our guys have to continue to work on making free throws under pressure, and then that becomes a huge part of the game.
Clint, just ask K-State's opponents how much it's helped to have the Cats have dudes fouling out left and right and get into the free throw line. And some of this stuff falls under that umbrella of rebounding, points in the paint, what happens near the basket. A lot of that is fouling. And so you get that corrected, then the free throw issues probably aren't the way they are. And it just kind of trickles down from there. And I pulled up, it was PJ Haggerty had his offensive foul with 1:32 left. K-State was up 81-79 at that point. And Clint, I'll let you kind of just take it from here. We talked before about these last number of possessions and how important each and every one of them were. And I think the first kind of notable one was that offensive foul that didn't go K-State's way.
Yeah, I mean, and so, PJ Haggerty gets called for the push off, which controversial. Okay, maybe make the call, maybe you don't. Unfortunate for us, especially given the situation. I mean, late game like this each possession is just magnified because of the time left in the game and what the score is. So obviously Oklahoma State, gets the ball and, but we have an opportunity. It gets down to the last, 15 seconds of the game, and Oklahoma State has the ball underneath, and they run, a play to try to get a shot. And we did an excellent job of getting a stop. I think Taj Manning grabs the basketball and is calling timeout, very similarly to how Fala, like at the 5-minute mark, after he hits a three and then goes down and then the ball gets kind of knocked around, he dives on the ground, and I think someone's kind of grabbing at the same time, and he's calling timeout, and the refs rewarded him the timeout and gave him the basketball. I thought Taj Manning should have been rewarded the timeout. Unfortunately, when you're on the road, you can't expect the refs to give you anything, right? And so they don't. They say jump ball, and in this situation, it goes to Oklahoma State's way. Now, Oklahoma State has the basketball, and, they're trying to run a play with 4 seconds left. They don't have any timeouts. So now they're trying to run a baseline out of bounds under play. And I'll actually pull it up here on what they're trying to do, because it's very simple what they're trying to do. And we actually guarded it really well. Taj Manning did a phenomenal job of not allowing Fala to get a bucket underneath, because what they tried to do is they basically were setting a diamond set, point guard's taking it out, and they tried to have Fala set kind of a brush screen here, right? And as he did that, their 4-man was coming over the top, and then they're trying to get a switch. And if Taj would have switched here, then he would have had our guard, I think it's Nate Johnson, right on the rollback, and that's what they were trying to hit. And it would have been wide open if we would have switched. But we did a really good job. One, Nate just kind of fought through the screen here. The 2-man drops. He just popped out, right? And we had everything covered. They didn't have anything to go. So what happens is Victorious Miller then, which I think, 2-hand shoves to push Bashir off of him, right? And then steps out to the 3-point line. Now in that situation, Bashir is obviously panicked because he got two-hand pushed. And so now he's not in a guarding position. And Miller actually has a wide open 3-point attempt. He just doesn't shoot it when he catches it, which, Bashir in a panic mode runs out there and clearly fouls him. I mean, there wasn't any discrepancy on was it a foul or was it not. Now, my question is, when we have 15 seconds left, we see that we go offense defense switches all the time. And part of that defensive lineup that we put in there is usually with David Castillo in the game. And Bashir obviously comes out of the game in those situations. And for some reason, we didn't do that. So 15 seconds left. I thought we probably should have went with the defensive lineup. All right, we got away with it. We thought we had the ball. They get it back. 4 seconds left. Another opportunity to go with the defensive lineup, right? And it's no knock on Bashir, but I think he knows and the coaching staff knows and everyone knows that he's one of our least defenders, right? And so we want to make sure that we get our better defenders out there, especially when all we need is one stop. Like, it's not like, hey, we get this stop, we still got to go down and score the basketball. Like, we're winning the basketball game. We just need to stop, right? And we had CJ Jones out there, great, phenomenal defender, right? PJ was on the ball. You had Nate Johnson, phenomenal defender, right? You had Taj Manning, good defender, right? And so it was like fifth defender we kind of needed out there to hopefully, get the stop. And I'm not saying that hey, if Steele was out there, we would have got the stop. We don't know what would have happened, right? But I think you still put your team in the best situation by having your better defenders on the floor, right? But hats off to Victorious Miller. He stepped up and made all 3 free throws in a very pressure situation to give them that lead. And what you saw from there is we had one timeout left. And K-State, every shoot-around works on a couple different plays. I can't give them what those play calls are because I can't give away, what they kind of do. But they work on a couple different situations. And one of them is that sideline pass that we saw to Taj Manning, who then called the timeout. So we had the basketball and a better scoring opportunity. And so it's a hats off to the coaching staff of working on those every single shoot around, not knowing when you're going to need it, right? Just knowing, hey, there's going to be a game where we're going to need it. And our kids are going to have to execute it. And we were able to do that to put ourselves in a position to obviously win the basketball game. And what we saw there is, 2 seconds left, kind of draw up what we ran, what I think maybe we were trying to get to. I'll talk about what we thought they were going to do and what they didn't do. And if we think they were going to do something, here's maybe what we should have done. But what we had was we had CJ Jones, just put him as our 3-man, right? So he's taking the basketball out. We have Taj is here. Nate. All right. So we were kind of set up like this, right? So you have Taj on the block. You have Bashir, CJ Jones. You have Nate. You have PJ up at half court. All right. We run just a baseline screen, simple screen here for Bashir to get him to the corner. Okay. Now, if he's open, then Oklahoma State doesn't know how to guard basketball, right? Like in this situation, hey, he's probably not going to be open just off of a baseline screen. Like they have to be kind of some kind of stagger or get some kind of switch, get them confused. Like they're not going to get confused just on this. So that that wasn't really the look, all right? And then you have Nate Johnson, who kind of steps like he's going to screen for PJ and then decides to basket cut to the ball and then kind of clear out to the opposite side, all right? So my thought is, we were trying to make it look like we're screening for PJ to kind of like get them confused on a switch, right? Nate then sprints. PJ steps and does the same exact thing towards the basketball, which maybe he was supposed to catch it, right, and try to get downhill immediately, right, because he probably had 1 or 2 dribbles. Instead, he kind of catches, pops out, and obviously gets the shot from, 40 feet or so, which didn't go in. Now, if we would have caught it closer to the rim, like there's really not a lot of space for him to drive because you have Taj on the same side block. Like, so he would probably have to try to still catch it and shoot it. One of the things that came out in the press game conference was PJ saying, hey, we thought maybe they were going to foul, right, with 2 seconds left, which is why, he decided to kind of catch it and shoot it right away, which, now if the ball was, and Coach Lutz talked about this as well for Oklahoma State, if the ball was on the opposite side of the floor and we're going full court, and we got to catch the ball like on a banana cut. Maybe I can show it on this. We got to catch the ball on a banana cut. So we're going this way, down here, and we're way up here. And we got to catch the ball like this on a banana cut. Then, yeah, maybe you foul with 2 seconds because as soon as he catches it, he can't shoot it from there. I mean, you can foul him, and the refs probably aren't going to reward him. But being that the ball is in the half-court setting with 2 seconds left, like a team's not going to foul. Like it's too risky, right? It's too risky they can catch it anywhere in this area, and they're in shooting – scoring opportunity where you can't risk them just throwing their hands up and getting to the free throw line, especially after we just gave them basically the exact same thing, right? So if we thought they were going to foul, though, then I think it does make more sense that as Bashir comes off of this screen, if they switched or not, right, they got to respect it. Taj Manning posts up hard, and you throw the ball directly into the post. And the reason for that is because if you throw the ball there and you think they're going to foul, cool, he catches it, they foul him. Now we get the ball baseline out of bounds. An even better scoring opportunity, right, with probably 1.5 seconds left, and we can get our best shot that we want from a baseline out of bounds versus a side out of bounds. And so that's my thought. If we truly thought, hey, they're going to foul us, then we should have ran something where we're catching the ball below the free throw line, because that will give us the opportunity. If they foul us, we have a baseline out of bounds. I mean, they foul us, up here, and we're not in the shooting mode. We're just taking it right back outside line out of bounds, right, without any timeouts. So that's kind of my thought through that, is what we probably should have done if we would have thought they were trying to foul us. But like I said, with 2 seconds left, I wouldn't anticipate that Oklahoma State would even risk trying to put their hands on us, knowing that we could just catch it and then go up and get to the free throw line. So unfortunate situation for us, but our guys, they fought hard, and they fought hard, and I know the coaching staff is coaching them hard and trying to figure out a way to get wins. And maybe we overthought some things there at the end. And you said sometimes it comes just keeping it simple, and unfortunately, we couldn't do that. But like I said, we can't foul them. Maybe we have our better defenders out there in the last few seconds of the game. And then, if we think they're going to foul us, maybe we run something a little bit closer to the rim, so it gives us an opportunity. So if they do foul us, hey, we have a better chance of being successful with a baseline out of bounds play where we know we can get a good shot versus kind of that sideline out of bounds.
Round of applause, everybody. Round of applause for Clent Stewart. I mean, I could have went and grabbed a coffee, took out the trash. You'd still be going. That was great stuff. And when you bring out that clipboard, dude, by the way, if you're on Spotify, Apple, whatever, that's great. But you're missing out on the goods on the YouTube video here.
There you go. The clipboard.
You gotta be watching. It's
always fun.
Clint, towards the end of that, the only thing I could think of was 2010 Xavier in the Sweet 16 game, and losing to Butler the next day. That game obviously went to overtime. If you're not familiar, K-State fouled up by 3, right? And then they went and hit all the free throws. And so, Yes, K-State won the game, but the fatigue and the altitude and everything that happened, that was a late night game. I think a lot of people believe that led to the loss in the Elite Eight. But yeah, you were fair, Clint. The late game execution was not good from Kansas State, but give credit where it is due to even get the ball on the plus side of half court, so to speak, with that throw to Taj and the quick timeout, right? It wasn't all disaster. It wasn't good. Abdi fouling and the whatever that was with 2 seconds left wasn't good, but K-State did give itself a chance. And that was what was frustrating, though, was there was 2 seconds, right? Clint, rule of thumb is you got one dribble per second. So PJ or anybody could have taken at least a dribble or two. And I'm not saying PJ should have passed it. You're getting too risky there, but you had so much time. This wasn't like you just had to get it off as soon as you could. You had time to work with.
Yeah, you did. And that's where, like I said, with 2 seconds left, I mean, if a team is risking trying to foul you with 2 seconds left, I mean, they are risking the game, really. I mean, just because of as soon as they do put their hands on you, you obviously can go into that shooting motion. And so, I think we should have anticipated that they probably weren't going to foul. And so we definitely had a dribble or two. PJ could have got it a little bit closer, or try to catch the ball a little bit closer towards the rim where he'd have a better opportunity to obviously shoot it and make the shot. And it's not saying that he can't make it from there. Yeah, I'm sure he can make the shot from where he shot it at. When there's no, and it's even easier when there's no pressure and you're practicing it, right? Than versus in the game and there's so much adrenaline and just so much pressure going on, and so that makes it tough. But like I said, we did some good things there, and I was really impressed with us just being able to get the ball to half court, and then call the timeout. And maybe, unfortunately we lost the timeout on the challenge call, early on. And so maybe that changed kind of what we wanted to do because we didn't have any more timeouts. If Tane kind of saw how they guarded us, maybe say, oh, let's take another timeout and let's run something differently there at the end. But, it's the way it goes sometimes and the way the ball falls. And, unfortunately, you say we make, make one or two more free throws, you make one or two more defensive stops, right? You make one or two more shots, and obviously we're not having this conversation and win the basketball game, but that's the way the game is played. I mean, it's possession by possession, and then usually, games come down to, hey, all we needed was one less turnover, right? All we needed was one more stop, and we would have won the basketball game.
Yep, every possession matters so much, man. They really do. And I want to ask you, we're going to get to some questions here in a sec, but the 5 to grind activity motto, I don't even know what that is. It's a real thing they practice. It's a real thing. That was a staple of Jerome Tang's first season, and it lingered into the second year. The overtime record was insane from Jerome Tang. They couldn't lose in overtime. Now these close games, K-State's dropping them. What do you see in your eyes?
Well, I think some of it's just execution down the stretch, and it's not that we're not trying to, and like we're not trying to we're trying to execute, right? It's just we haven't been successful in doing so, and man, I tell you, it's the game is just momentum, and sometimes when you win a few, when we went on our kind of streak of the 5 to grind and then winning those close games, like you win a few, you just start believing, right? And then the ball just falls your way somehow, right? And it's the same thing on the other side. Like you lose a few, it's just like, here we go again, right? And things kind of happen in the end where it's like, hey, Oklahoma State, we should have won. What have we freaking foul a shooter, and then guess what? Of course he's going to make all 3, right? Like he'll probably go next week and it could have to be in the same situation. It might miss 2, right? But like against us, it's just the way it's like, he's going to make all 3 because that's just the way it's been going lately, right? And then so I think that momentum is a real thing, and unfortunately, we're on the other side of that right now, and trying to figure out a way to dig through that and get out of that has been tough. But one thing about the coaching staff, and they're not gonna quit coaching these guys up. Like as much as flack as people have been giving them, and on this, that, and the other, like I guarantee you, they're coaching as hard as they can. Like I know a lot of staff personally. I mean, obviously, and they're not doing anything to not try to give these guys the best opportunity to win. But as a coach, I think one thing that people don't understand, and I've been a high school coach head coach for 10 years at the high school level. I've coached on different levels, obviously with TBT as well. I've coached, little kids. I've coached girls basketball, boys basketball. One thing as a coach is, you're in the spotlight, especially at the stage that the college level, the NBA level. I mean, your job is obviously to win basketball games, and when you're not winning, like your job is one of the most looked at jobs from fan bases and communities, versus the average person, right? When I worked in the oil and gas field, I could go have a bad 3 weeks, and the only person know about it is my manager, maybe, and then maybe the person I work with, and no one's really talking about it like that, right? I mean, if I have a bad year, maybe I get a bad rating. Like there's a few people that kind of know about that, and that's it, right? But it's not a constant every single game. People are talking about how you are performing or what you're doing, and so I mean, those coaches have a very tough job. They're in the spotlight, and as quickly as things are great when you're winning, right? When you're losing, it's just the opposite, and then things are really, really tough just because of all the outside noise. But I guarantee you, they're working every single day right now. They know we just dropped when we needed to win. They're already refocused and trying to figure out how can we go beat Utah, like because that's the goal, right? We got to go get that first win on the board, and so there's no doubt in my mind that they're working their tails off to try to figure out how we can go do that.
Yeah, Jerome Tang, guys, I can tell you firsthand, he was fired up in Stillwater. Now, didn't win the game, didn't execute, and you're allowed to have, if you're listening here, your own opinion, your own thoughts on Tang. You're free to do that. I'm here to tell you that Tang's fired up. So to say he's not coaching or trying to coach, guys, you can judge him on wins and losses and what's been going on, but to say he's just coming out here and not giving a shit is wrong, right? He was coaching his butt off in Stillwater, and Clent, like, it's funny you mentioned it. K-State's kind of in the storm right now. Those free throws were going in. They just were. Remember last year, Jaden Quaitnance against Arizona State? Like those 2 free throws were not going in because K-State was in the midst of that winning streak. And so It's just kind of the storm that you're in right now. And that's kind of how the cookie's been crumbling. And, Tang was fired up though. And this was, what was that? Was that Tulsa when K-State came back late early in the non-conference? And Tang talked about like he didn't believe his team was going to win. Like it was just one of those days, and somehow they got over the hump. Tang was fired up then. You don't see this every game out of Tang, but certain instances, right? Second half when K-State took its lead, Tang was fired up. I remember watching Kamari McGriff when he was fouled out like timeout was called or there was a dead ball, everybody's coming back to the bench. Like Kamari was the first one out there to, greet his teammates and keep them going, right? Clapping his hands. I think I watched Kamari every moment in that press conference. If you look at him, like he's just everything, Tang is saying, he's nodding his head like he's in agreement. Now, that's not for me to say that everything's going to be okay. That's not for me to say that the 0-5 start is excused in any regard, right? You've got to win games. I'm just here to say that they do care. They're trying. And to just say that, he's mailing it in, right? This kills any fan out there, right? To be 0-5, this kills any fan out there. I'm sure as a former player, Clint, you look at this and you're frustrated as heck.
Yeah.
But nobody's taking this harder than Jerome Tang and his staff and his players. Nobody.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing about it is, as a fan, as a alumni of Kansas State, I mean, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, right? And you can agree, or you can like, the way Coach Tang coaches, or you can have your disagreement in the way he coaches. You can have your own opinions like that. That's all free game. But there's one thing, like I know for certain is, he's working his butt off to try to figure out a way to get K-State to what we all believe we can be as a basketball program, and so he's working just as hard as anybody, to try to do that. And there's no I have no doubt in my mind, the staff, and then obviously that's why he brought in Coach Driscoll, right? Because he said, hey, we have a deficiency here in the offensive area, and let's bring in one of the best offensive minds that I know that can help us get better offensively. And guess what? We've been a lot better offensively. Like, now, unfortunately, we've suffered some defensively because of that, but, he's trying to figure out, what do we have to do differently? What do we have to do differently? And I think for this team now, as we kind of look at, one of the questions, and I think you might have this queued up too, Ryan, was why has this team regressed from what we saw in the beginning of the season that had us so optimistic, right? And I think it's a really good question. And I really don't think we've regressed. I think the thing is, we saw early on in the season, we're not a great defense. We're not a good defensive team. Like, if I want to use the word great, we're not a good defensive team right now. We are a phenomenal offensive team, when we shoot the ball well and if we make shots. Like, we can be phenomenal on offense. But what we saw early on is, against the better teams, right? So you have California, who's, high major, obviously D1 program. You have Tulsa, mid-major, but a good team and has proven as a good team, right? California, we won 99-96, right? And so offensively, we played tremendous, right? We scored 99 points, but we gave up 96. Like, that game could have went just the opposite way, especially down the stretch where they made everything they shot. Like, we would have missed one or two shots. We would have lost that game, right? And so, like, we just were fortunate enough that we made a few shots in the end and just held them off, right? You look at the game against Tulsa. It's a game we probably should not have won, but guess what? We made a few plays down the stretch, just enough, and we got the stop in the end, just barely, to win the basketball game, right? But we gave up 83 points in that game. You look at the Mississippi State game. Obviously, we scored 98; they scored 77, so that one's good. Nebraska, we lose to Nebraska. It's 86-85, right? Like, that's a game we could have won, right? But we gave up 86 points. And so, like, we scored 85, great, but, like, I think this is just, like, we haven't. This is who we are. We're gonna give up. These better teams, we're giving up 80 plus, right? And if we score 80 plus, we have a chance to win, and it might fall our way. But if we don't, we're going to lose by 10, right? So you look at the Big 12, and in the Big 12, we've given up 80 plus points in all 5 games. So BYU, 83, Arizona, 101, Arizona State, 87, UCF, 82, Oklahoma State, 84, right? So that's who we are. I mean, at some point in time, you say, you are what the stats say you are. I mean, it's just, that's what it is. So we are a bad defensive team, right? We're definitely not a good defensive team, and we have to score the basketball. And if we're scoring in the 70s against BYU, 70s against Arizona, 70s against UCF, we're probably not going to win the basketball game. Like, we have to score in the 80s to give us a chance because our defense is giving up 80 plus, right? And so that's why we had a chance against Oklahoma State, because we shot it so well. It's why we had a chance against Arizona State, right? We scored 84, like we had a chance, just didn't fall the way we wanted it to. But I think the team is, I think what we've seen now through these games and through the first 5 Big 12 games, I mean, this is kind of who we are. You hope that we can get better defensively. And how do we do that? Well, it's a mindset, and that mindset has to be changed, and it has to be guys held accountable to play a certain way defensively. And if they don't play that way defensively, then butt to bench. And I think it was it Coach Knight, I believe, said butt to bench, right? And then the bench releases nerves to the butt and then goes up to the brain and realizes, like, hey, I got a guard, right? And so when you get back out there, you start playing better defense. Of course, he doesn't use butt to bench, he uses some other words, but like, it's like that's the only teacher sometimes of guys like figuring out, like, hey, there's got to be a mental shift in what we're doing to give ourselves an opportunity to win. And so I think that's might be the only way.
Offense, defense, this whole topic. Andre Kostic, does it surprise you that he didn't play a single minute against Oklahoma State? And after Arizona out in Tucson, Tang mentioned that he's part of a bigger picture plan and to get him involved more. I thought, okay, like we're going to see more of Andre, and to see him not play at all in this game where defense wasn't good, right? Are you surprised that you haven't seen him and you saw, a lot of CJ in this game, for example?
And I'll be honest, I thought CJ played well. I thought
CJ had a couple bad misses, but he also had a couple of timely buckets. He did.
Yeah. But I in a game where, I think it's kind of getting to the point where, as I mentioned, maybe we are who we are unless there is a mindset shift where, all right, if we got to go score 90, then maybe we need Andre to play. Right, like, because we know he can score he can shoot the basketball. He's skilled offensively, and so how much is he really giving up defensively? Given that we're already giving up 85 plus points per game, right? So I don't think that there's any. Well, he doesn't guard, and so we're giving up 85, so you can't say that we guard, that anybody really guard. It's just that's not what it is. If we have one person that guards, we have the other 4 that aren't. So, I think it could be to the point where it's like, hey, let's give him a shot because maybe he can make a few shots offensively for us. He's skilled. He's long. He's uses height as well. Can drive the basketball. So maybe his time might be coming. We'll kind of see what happens in the next few games. But like I said, I think we're to the point now where unless there is a mindset shift that says, hey, we're going to start giving up, try to hold teams to 70 and under or 73 and under, and we see a shift from our guys playing some defense, then I don't see why not give them a shot.
Yeah, the Band-Aid, I understand if you want to try to stop the bleeding, but there might come a point in time where it's going to bleed no matter what. You might as well focus on other areas, offense, right? So it's interesting. I thought Kostic was going to be playing more. Obviously, Clint, before the year, dude, there were talks about him being a starter on this team. So let alone what's happened the last number of games, I thought he was going to be a big picture in this team.
Well, and he's on several NBA draft boards, and I saw him this summer, when we're up there for TBT in Manhattan, and I'm like, oh man, I love this kid. Like, I thought he, given his size and his ability to shoot, like I could see why he was on, some NBA draft boards. And so now, knowing that, it's an adjustment to the American game, and obviously knowing, defensively he's not where he needs to be. But I was excited about kind of just what I saw in the short amount of time that I saw him this summer, given his skill set, right? And I'm sure that's why, Coach Tang and the staff brought him to Kansas State, because they probably think like his skill set, you can see flashes of it, right? And so, I hope he continues to work. Any kid in his situation, I would tell, and no different than David last year. He went through some struggles last year and trying to figure some things out. And it's like, man, you got to stick to the process, stay in the gym, continue to get better, learn as much as you can. Your time will come. But what you can't do is you can't get discouraged and lead you to, not doing the things that you need to do individually, right, to become a better basketball player. And when you do that and you continue to work, you'll put yourself in a situation so when your time comes, you're ready to go out there and perform and show the coaches that you can play and you can play well.
What's the old saying? Don't be patient. Go wait for your opportunity, go work while you wait for your opportunity. Right? That's
That's
what you
it.
got to do if you're Andre. If there is a bigger picture plan moving forward, you still got to lock in and assume that your number is going to be called any game, even if it might not be. But a couple questions here, Clint. You kind of touched on this a tiny bit, but one from Twitter you wanted to highlight from John. How's it get better from here? Realistically, that is, don't have a flaw on offense, skilled enough consistently to play man to man on defense, getting out coached. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so how's it get better from here? Well, one, we got to get a win. I mean, that's how it gets better.
There you go.
But,
That's why you tune into the Clent Stewart Show.
That makes everything better, right? But I think, how does it get better? Well, and this is just Clint talking, all right, I think we have to have a mindset shift like that. That's what I think, and that's the only way I think it can become better from here. I think in the Big 12, now the game's a little bit different, right? I mean, there's just more possessions. Teams are getting up and down, pushing the basketball. And we know we're still at best when we're out in transition. Like that's fast break points are really important to us, and as far as how we want to play. But I think we've seen now. We've tried to outscore teams, and it's just not working. And when you look at some of the better teams in the Big 12, we're not going to outscore them. They're not. I mean, they're Houston is phenomenal defensively, right? Like it's not going to be like, oh, let's just go score 90 on Houston. If we score 90 on Houston, then Coach Sampson might pull his hair out than what he has left. So I mean, it's just it's not going to happen, right? I mean,
Yeah.
And so I think we have to shift our focus, and it's not to take anything away from what we're doing offensively, because we still want to play the same way offensively. As far as when we play well, we share the basketball. Obviously, we know we got to shoot the basketball really well from the outside. That's kind of our bread and butter. I do think Kamari McGriff has shown that he should probably get more touches inside. I mean, he's just throughout the entire year when he's down there in the post, especially getting over his right shoulder, shooting with his left hand, like he can score the basketball. And so, I think we need to throw the ball into him every opportunity that we get that he is posted up and he is open, and then kind of play off of him some more. I think Buka setting screens. I mentioned this on Twitter. Like I love Buka. I would be happy not to see him take another three all year. I'd be happy to see him catch it out there and play more like a Draymond Green type of role, where as soon as he catches it, he's getting into a DHO, a dribble handoff, or a pitch and ball screen. And because he's so big and so physical, like I'm just from a guard's perspective and a point guard's perspective, who guarded point guards who come off ball screens. The one I hated the most was freaking DJ Augustine, because his sophomore year. So that'd be my junior year, I believe. Their offense, this was after Kevin Durant had already graduated. And so their offense ran through DJ Augustine, and it was ball screen again, and ball screen again. And it was the hardest thing I ever had to guard, because like you're just hitting big guys. I mean, like I think Buka can do that for us, and guards, they do not want any part of that. I mean, it's not fun to play against, and especially a guy that's as physical as him. So, utilizing his ability to set screens out on the perimeter every single time he catches the basketball, or ball screens, I think we can get some really good stuff out of that from an offensive standpoint. But like I said, we have to figure out a way to change the mindset defensively. And unfortunately, a lot of that starts with your leader. And if your leader is PJ Haggerty, then that's where you have to start with changing the mindset defensively, so we can get stops, so we can win basketball games.
Good stuff from the Twitter X, whatever you call it now, comments, Clint. A couple from GoPowercat. I posted a thread up on Wabash. If you're not on the site, be sure to sign up. Cole Carmody's been absolutely killing it on transfer portal coverage, and it's winding down a little bit, but
Cole's amazing.
He's killing it. You guys ran into each other, didn't you?
Recently? Yeah, we did. Yeah. So I'm assistant coaching in Olathe West, and we played Olathe North, and he was doing the play-by-play for that game. So we chatted up for a few minutes.
Full circle moment right there, huh?
Yeah.
I'll kind of step aside here, Clint. I'll just kind of rapid fire these off to you and let you answer them. First one from EMA 2011. How do we fix the consistent foul troubles?
And unfortunately, when you're a bad defensive team, like that's usually what happens is you foul, right? I mean, you just don't move your feet right enough. You don't have the right rotations, which puts you in opportune, just bad opportunities, and that leads to fouls. So we try to go some zone. Hopefully that limits some of the not being able to guard the basketball. But like I said, I think there has to be a constant shift of being able to move our feet, guard with our chest, and defense is all about five guys being on the same page. Like there's so many different defenses you can play, right? Some teams play on the line, up the line, pressure. Some teams play more gap type of defense, like Virginia and what they kind of did. And some teams play zone. Think about Syracuse in the 2-3 zone, and but ultimately, all five guys have to be on the same page, and all five guys have to know where do we want the basketball to go. So defensively, if you can dictate where you want the basketball to go. So let me put you in my mindset is the ball's on the side, right? And we do this quite a bit. You see, we down some ball screens, which means we're going to force it down to the baseline. We're not going to allow them to get the ball to the middle of the floor. And so why do you do that? Well, you do that because now the help side knows where it's coming from. So if they drive baseline, we know where the help is coming from. We know where the helper is coming from, and everybody is in the same sync. Like everyone is working together defensively, so then we can be the best that we can be. Now, if you don't have a defensive system that is modeling some type of like, well, this is where we want the basketball to go, then the offense is deciding where the basketball goes, and now defensively you're playing catch up. And you're just like guesswork, right? And that's what makes it hard. And so I think we just got to get back to like zoning in on our guys, locking into what our defensive system is. And if they cannot do what is being asked defensively, butt to bench comes up through the butt, talks to the brain, and says, hey, if you want to play, this is what you got to do, right? And that's all. I mean, that becomes it, right? And we got enough guys, I think, that we could obviously do some of that and then get guys playing a different way defensively.
B. Foster says he's got a magic wand. You're now the head coach of this team. What are your first 3 steps to right the ship?
Well, I think, first off, I don't want to take anything away from the coaches that are there and what they're doing now, because they're trying to right the ship, and I think, they're trying to do things that they think can obviously help us better. But I think for me, and I've kind of talked about some of this, is one, going in with just the different mentality. That's the first thing. And it's an all defensive practice, and they might be doing this, right? I don't know. I'm not there, right? But it's an all defensive practice, and this is how we got to play, defensively. Two is, I think offensively, there's times where, we can share the ball better. And so we really have to get, guys just on the same page. Coach Taines talked about, hey, these guys, they like each other, right? Like that's not an issue, but, sometimes we get on the court and we play a little bit more selfish than what we should play. And so, you got to get guys sharing the basketball, ultimately to get the best shots that we can get as a team. And whether that's still you're playing through ball screen through PJ Haggerty, or whether you're playing more open flow type of offense, whatever that might be. But guys just have to have the mindset of the one more pass, the one more pass, the one more pass, the one more pass. I think that's really important. And then I think, 3 for us, we talked about, like, we have to be physical, and we have to, when it comes to rebounding the basketball, I think when it comes to setting screens, we have to change the mindset of being the more physical team. And I think that will also go right into like how we want to play defensively. And it's not, hey, we're physical and fouling. It's no, we're physical, so we're not giving up position to allow them to get offensive rebounds or to put them in opportunities where they can score the ball easier. And then on the flip side of that, like, we're physical because we got to go get more second chance opportunities. And so, guys have to get whatever we have designated, whether it's 3 guys crashing the offensive glass, whether it's 4 guys, but like holding guys accountable to whether they're get back guys, they're crashers, holding our guards accountable to helping the bigs rebound the basketball, and kind of turn it into a competition, of a rebounding competition, right? And there's, a reward for who gets the most rebounds in the freaking game, right? And, maybe the leading guard gets an award, the leading big gets no reward, and make it a competition, because as we know, a lot of times the game is won and lost in the rebounding battle, we got to be more physical in that area. And then, like I said, we got to defend and we got to share the basketball.
Rastlin asked, do you think that the major issues can be fixed with the current roster and coaches?
Yes, I do. I don't have any. I'm not wavering on, the obviously the coaching staff. Like I've kind of talked about that. Like they're working their tails off, and there's a lot of more experience than what I ever have. And than what I have personally as far as coaching, and so they're doing everything they can to try to put us in positions to win. I think the roster, I think was constructed for scoring the basketball, obviously. And we've shown that we can do that, but, I do think it's time now at 0-5. If we're ever desperate and there was ever a time for a change, this would be the time. And there's not we're 3-2 and, we're right there in the mix of things, or we're 4-1, we're at the top of the Big 12. It's like, now is the time. And when you look at our next 3 games, Utah at home, nothing's guaranteed, but should win. Right. But what a game, what an opportunity of a game to show a different mindset against a lesser type of opponent, to then try to right the ship as then we bring in KU. Right. As then we go to West Virginia. And that's going to be a really tough game, and so I think if you just look at the way the schedule plays out now, is you're back home. You only have, today and tomorrow to obviously prepare for Utah, so not a lot of time, but you can switch the mindset of how you want to play with holding those guys accountable, to then hopefully propel you into a win against Utah, and then, have KU at home and West Virginia on the road.
Yeah, that's going to be my topic of Monday's double delivery. Now, if you think Tang sucks, fire him, get rid of him. Remember, if Tang was a terrible coach and year number 1 was Marquise and Keontae just carrying the team, then it still falls on the players. Okay, at some point, the effort and the want to and just showing the opponent who's boss, that's on the players then. And K-State's got good players. And like you said, what better time than against Utah to come snap out of this? And maybe the one good thing about losing is you're not good. K-State could have won a couple games, close, late, maybe squeak by, and you think you're better than you are. No, this is a good opportunity to take a look in the mirror and really understand that you've got to get a lot better, because obviously what's going on right now, Clent isn't the answer. Next question from Legacy Cat. How do we become smarter? Why doesn't David play more? David Castillo. And will he leave K-State due to this staff?
Yeah. So before I get to that question, because you just said sometimes you got to look in the mirror, and it just brought me to the Michael Jackson. I'm talking about the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, right? Maybe we need to listen to some of that music as we're heading into these next few games.
Yeah.
But I think for David and like I said, I don't know why he didn't. I think he played 13, 14 minutes in the game against Oklahoma State. And I don't know why he didn't obviously play more. I can't speak to that. Or one thing I know about David is, in the conversations I've had with him, he's working his tail off, and he obviously loves the staff. They brought him to Kansas State. He's had a good year this year, a lot better than, playing a lot better than what he did last year. And so, I think he's pretty happy with how he's been playing. Now, of course, last night and then, last few games, he obviously wish he would have played better. And I have no doubt that he's in the gym, working on his game to try to play better against Utah. But like I said, he's a kid, man. He's a loyal kid. I can't speak to what he will or won't do at the end of the year. I mean, that's obviously his decision. I talk to him on a regular basis, just about kind of how things are going, where his mind is at, how well he's playing, or can try to keep his spirits high, into the next game. But I'll leave all the other stuff kind of, up to him and obviously his family. But like I said, I will say that, he's enjoying, he's a kid that's enjoying kind of coming off the bench. He's the one that went to Coach Tang and said, hey, bring me off the bench, because I think I can bring a spark there and then I can help our team. And, he's going to try to do everything he can to help the team win. And that's his focus. He's obviously more offensive minded, this year, I think, is being able to score the basketball. But I will also say, like, he's been playing the best defense that he's played in his career. I mean, just from where he was, obviously from high school to prep school to Kansas State. I mean, you can definitely see the mindset shift in him over the last 3-4 years. How hard he has to play defensively. I think even Oklahoma State, the announcers said it at one point in time, like, David Castillo, the best on-ball defender for Kansas State, and so people are kind of taking notice that, he's given a lot of effort on the defensive end, which that makes me really happy, and then just seeing him, trying to play both sides of the floor and give everything he can to help the team win.
Hey, Clint, there might have been a really good announcing crew, and the production of this game might have been great, but a 9 p.m. tip-off, I think, ultimately falls on the TV networks and those deals. I was not happy about that. It was a long night, early morning getting back to Manhattan, but we made it. We made it. Wish I could have brought back home a win to Manhattan, but such is life. Really good question here, Clint. Really good one from Purple Cheese. Think back to any of your seasons. Was there one where it felt the team made a major change or improvement in the middle of the season that would be comparable to what this team desperately needs?
Oh, man. I think back to my senior year. So this is the Beasley year. We went on the road and lost to Xavier in a terrible game. They ended up beating us by like 30 or something. And did not play. I got two. Did not play. Yeah, did not play well that game. And it was a game where we thought obviously we'd go up to Ohio and play really well. And Bill Walker kind of being back home, right, in the state of Ohio, and playing really well. But we didn't, and I thought that game for us kind of like humbled us a little bit and allowed us to kind of reset as we focused in on the Big 12 season, and then obviously coming out in the Big 12 season and then playing really well, and beating KU at home, for the first time in 24 years or whatever it might have been, and and really just kind of propelling us to the NCAA tournament. And I thought that shift really for us was like, hey, we're not as good as we think we are, and we need to figure some things out, and we got to play even harder than what we need to play, because it was unacceptable to go up there and really just get beat down and had no chance of winning the basketball game. It's just very unacceptable. So that was one. The other one I think about is my junior year. So Coach Huggins, and we're on a road trip, and we this is a road trip. I think it might have been like California maybe, or I know the game that really set it off was Colorado State. And we played at Colorado State, and we lost that game. And Coach Huggins, after that game, this is a game that David Hoskins played his tail off. After the game, David Hoskins had to get put on an IV because he played so hard. And Huggins was not happy with several of us players other than David. And I remember sitting in that locker room, and Huggins went off on all of us. I mean, locker room back at the hotel went off, just on how soft and how just how unacceptable, and just how it's unacceptable it was for how we played against Colorado State. And the game that we obviously should have won, I think it might have went into overtime too, and we ended up losing, but a game that we should have won, and it was kind of the turning point for that season, and for us as players, it was the point of like, this guy's crazy, and he wants to win, and he's going to do whatever he has for us to freaking figure it out and for us to win. And he's going to challenge us, every single day for us to play the way that he wants us to play, especially from a defensive standpoint. Like, this is a non-negotiable, right? I mean, and a lot of Huggins' philosophy offensively was shoot the ball and go get it. Like, and even when he was at Cincinnati, just shoot it and go get it. But defensively, X, Y, Z, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do that. If you can't do that, you can't play. And that was the mindset. And so I think that kind of set the tone for us of like, all right, if we want to be good, this is what we got to do, right? And then that year, obviously in the Big 12, we ended up going and winning 10 games, 10-6 in the Big 12. Had a really thought we won enough games to make it into the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, just first time, and I think it was like 10 years or something that a team in the Big 12 won 10 games and finished in the top 4 and didn't make the NCAA tournament or something crazy. But I think it really kind of set the standard And what Mike Tomlin kind of said, like the standard is the standard. Coach Huggins had a standard, and that standard was like, bro, like you want to play, like I'm not. He was saying to us, I'm not joking when I tell you guys this is who I am, and if you want to play, this is who you will be. And it was like, accept it. Let's go. You know, and it was like, we don't want to get yelled at like that anymore. So we gotta go figure this out, and this is gonna help us win basketball games. So I said those 2 moments.
Like right now, especially for this team, the margin for error is not big. So your fight and your heart, your hustle, that has to be a non-negotiable at a top-notch level for a full 40 minutes. No questions asked.
Yeah, no doubt. And as you mentioned, for full 40, right? Like 20, 25, 30, 39, 59, like it's not enough. Like it's got to be the full 40. And the thing about it is, like, we have enough guys. I mean, you look at our team. All right. PJ, Abdi, Nate, David, Kamari, Rapiek, Buka, CJ Jones, Taj Manning, Ike Garuka. That's 10. If you want to throw Kostic in there, that's 11, right? Like 11 guys that could play. So only 5 can get on the court, but I think we have 11 guys that you could say, hey, could be fighting for minutes somewhere on the basketball court. And so if you don't want to give us everything you have, next guy in, you know, and I think that's got to be the accountability, to hold these guys, you know, hold them accountable to how Coach Tank wants them to play, and giving that full 40-minute effort. And honestly, if you're giving all of your effort, and I tell this to the high school kids I coach now, like, if you're giving everything you have, like, there should be a point in the game where, like, you're asking for a breather because you're playing so hard, you know. And I'll be honest with you. You know, I looked at this last game, and one of the things that shocked me, I didn't realize it, but like PJ played 40 minutes, right? And he played. I mean, he obviously had some really good scoring opportunities, and a time where he kind of scored the ball really well for us. But like, there shouldn't be a game where he plays 40 minutes. Just if you're playing, like if you are giving, you should be asking for, hey, I need a breather. Like, give me a breather, I'll get back in. Like, because you're playing so dang hard, right? Like, and so that's what I would challenge him, right? Is like, hey, you played 40 minutes, you didn't ask for one sub, right? And you say, well, I'm in the best condition. If you're playing as hard as you can on both ends of the floor, like, one, you're leading us from an offensive standpoint, and you're playing as hard as you can defensively, you should be asking for a breather. Now, if you don't get one, because I look down the bench and I say, sorry, man, you got to stay in, like, then that's on me, right? But like, you should at least have some type of break within the game that says, hey, I need a breather, I need a water. Okay, now I'm good. Coach, I'm ready to go back in, right? And I think that's how we got to have guys playing that hard.
I think a decent example here is Martavius Irving. Guess we had on the show earlier this week, right? Not the most gifted offensive player. I hope Martavius isn't watching this and no takes a shot at him, but like, defense is where he hung his hat, and it was effort. And he came in there and accepted his role. And you know, go back and watch, if you didn't, the love that he had for his teammates off the court and how that translates on the court, and the trust you have for your guys. That's what you got to get back to. That's what you got to get back to. I think, what was that, 2014, Clint? You probably don't remember this. I don't know how I do. Nigel Johnson was thrown up, I think, in a towel, like, because he was fighting that hard to beat KU on their home court. Now, that's the standard. That's what you want every game, but that's how it should be, right? I'm not saying PJ needs to go throw up every game, but you've got to want to come out of a game at some point because you're just exhausted. You just have to. And Tanks talked about that with McGriff. That kind of backs up your point. When he played against, it was UCF, he played like 30 some minutes. It was like, oh, like crap, like the conditioning kind of falls off a little bit because you haven't been on the court for that much. So it's true.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And you know, like I said, if guys are playing that hard, then you have multiple guys that you can put in there. And the other thing too is, I mean, I think as a coach, if a player asks to come out of the game and says, hey, coach, I need a breather, that I think the player should tell you when he goes back in. Like, if you're playing so dang hard that you ask to come out to get a breather, then you're rewarded for, hey, coach, I'm ready. You're ready? Go back in, because that's how hard you're playing right now. If I take you out of the game, right, and I say, hey, take him out because he turned the ball over, or because I think you're tired or not playing as hard as you should play, or I think, you didn't execute something, or whatever it might be, or maybe it's just like, I just want to get you out. If I take you out, then I get to determine when you go back in, like whether that's in a minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, whether you don't go back in the rest of the game. Like, I get to determine that, right? But if you're a player and you're playing that hard and you say, coach, give me a breather, then I think I think I will reward the player and say, you tell me when you're ready, because that's the kind of guy I want to be out there in the court.
We talked about Abdi Bashir. He checked himself out of a game in Omaha against Creighton, and Dan Castillo wants to come in off the bench. And that's another one of those examples that you should want to come out if you're too tired. You shouldn't want to stay on the court and be selfish, right? If you're exhausted, you got to have that trust in your guys to come in and maintain that level of intensity that you're playing with. So we spent a lot of time on this whole effort thing, Clint, but that's step one. That's ground zero, right? If you want to turn this around, non-negotiable is that effort.
No doubt.
Man, we're getting creative here on these shows, Clint. We're going an hour here. We've had guests on. We're taking questions. We're going live. This show it's evolved, man. It's even got a new name this year. How about that?
Hey, it's fun, man. This is a lot of fun. Talking basketball, obviously interacting with our fan base, getting questions, whether that's kind of pre-questions like we did today, or whether that's recorded live questions. That we had in the past. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying obviously talking Kansas State basketball and my thoughts, bringing on guests and guys that put the purple and white on, and guys that I know really well. Just through the brotherhood. I mean, it's been a fun time. I'm really enjoying it. I hope everyone's enjoying it as well, because like I said, I know you love this, Ryan. I love it as well.
Yeah. I don't work, man. I don't have a job. I get to enjoy what I do, and it's a blast. And this right here, this Clent Stewart Show, it wouldn't be possible without you, my man.
I appreciate it.
So I'm not sure when we'll be back, Clint. I think we planned on doing one after Utah, but the way
things
unfolded on Saturday, we're like, we got to come back on here. So
yeah,
I'm not sure what will be next, but we can do one after Utah. Why not?
We can. Hopefully it's a win. We get a win. We can talk about what we did well. And it doesn't come down to a last second foul or something. Got to go break down the film for. But for sure, obviously after Utah, we'll be heading into the KU game and get some thoughts on that as well.
Should be fun, man. We'll be back here soon on the Clent Stewart Show. K-State takes on Utah Tuesday evening, 7 p.m., I believe. Inside of Bramwich Coliseum. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you for watching the Clent Stewart Show, your Kansas State basketball podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to GoPowercat.com. This has been a GoPowercat and Spirit Street production.